Hello, my friends. It's Nick, the ASMR nerd, and today we're going to go flying in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's been over a year since I did one of these videos, so it's high time for another. And in fact, this video was voted for by this channel's supporters on Patreon and YouTube memberships. So it is this month's supporters' choice. All supporters at the Fusro and Fusro-da tiers get to vote in a poll each month to select the topic of a video for that month. And this was what they chose. So big thanks to those who voted. And of course, a big thank you to all of this channel's supporters. And if you're interested in counting yourself amongst their ranks, you can find links down below in the video description. And you'll get yourself some fun perks if you sign up, and you'll be supporting what I do here. So today we are going to be flying in Japan, as you probably know from the video title. And this is an idea that I've had in my mind for quite some time, ever since I visited Japan last year, in May of last year, coming up on, almost a year ago now, getting close anyway. And it was a spectacular trip. It's just a gorgeous country, so many amazing, fascinating things to see and experience and taste and all that. So I thought it would be nice for us to take a flight in Flight Sim. And my initial idea was to fly over Tokyo, but I did a test flight, and, well, for one, the performance was really poor. It was really stuttery. I don't know why, but this game can be pretty taxing, even on powerful hardware. So my next thought was, well, what about Mount Fuji? I didn't actually get to visit Mount Fuji while I was in Japan. Just got to see it from a distance, and so I thought this would be a fun way for me to experience Mount Fuji up close, and for you to join me. So, and then I thought, well, we could also go fly over Kyoto, which is another beautiful city in Japan. It's the historical imperial capital. Some would say the cultural center of Japan, with all kinds of amazing things to see. And so I did a little test flight there, and I think that will be just grand. I can show you some of the places that I visited, talk about the history of the landmarks in the city a little bit, and we'll go from there. So that's the plan. That's the itinerary. Mount Fuji and then Kyoto. We begin our flight here in the early morning at a little airport called Gotemba Airport, and it is the closest airport that I could find to Mount Fuji. We are very close to the mountain, and we are flying this NXCub, which I have not flown previously, but I did a little Googling to find what plane Flight Sim grognards recommended for sightseeing flights like this. And this one was pretty highly recommended. As you can see, it's just a tiny little two-seater. Looks very light. Not especially powerful, but I think it will do what we need. So, without further ado, let's fly, shall we? Okay, so I have actually turned down the engine sounds, so that's why you don't hear our prop spinning there. So you'll mostly just have cockpit sounds and the wind whistling outside, which is kind of nice. Hopefully a little more relaxing than having that droning engine at all times. So let's release our parking brake and let's throttle up. This is a very small airport, a very short little runway, as you can see, but it should be plenty for us in this very light plane. And we're already up off the ground and clearing the trees. And if we slowly bank around to the west here, you will see that we are indeed quite close to Mount Fuji. There we are. We can level off there. And we can adjust our flaps and our trim. Let's do that. And trim down a little bit. I'm no expert aviator, as you might know if you watched any of my other flight sim content, my videos or streams. I am just a guy who really likes the idea of being able to fly anywhere in the world, and I love how beautiful this game is as well. So I apologize if I do anything ridiculous and silly here while flying. Those of you who are actual pilots or more knowledgeable about planes will probably be face palming at some of what I do, but it doesn't really matter. We're just here to enjoy the scenery. So we can of course get an external view. Mount Fuji is magnificent here in the morning light. If we look around behind us here, you can see the rising sun and Gotemba Airport where we took off from. It's somewhere way back over there to the east, northeast is Tokyo. Way out there in the haze. I had also thought maybe we would fly from Tokyo to Mount Fuji, but turns out in this little plane that would be a pretty long flight, and so instead we started there at Gotemba. So Mount Fuji is of course a stratovolcano, and it is still active, technically. Its last eruption was in the early 1700s. And it is not only a spectacular looking mountain, but also a mountain of incredible cultural and religious significance. in Japan. And of course a popular tourist destination for hikers and such. Just looking at the mountain from here, I have to say it looks like it would be a pretty grueling hike, but I do think you can drive up a good portion of the way. You don't have to hike from the very bottom. We're passing by a feature here. It's called Hoi Crater. Hoi Crater. And it's actually interesting to me that this crater exists on the side of the volcano here, because so often when you see Mount Fuji depicted, it's such a perfect conical stratovolcano with clean lines, clean edges. And I guess it just depends on what perspective you look at it from, but clearly on this flank, at least the southeastern flank, I guess, it has a big chunk out of it. Presumably that crater was the source of an eruption at one point. Probably that side of the mountain blew out. I don't know if that was in its most recent eruptive episode, or if that was sometime in the distant past. Spectacular views from here. And look at just how steep side of the mountain is. As we come around this side, you can really get a sense for it from our little airplane here. Just how imposing that edifice is. And judging by the lack of trails on this side of the mountain, you have to imagine people don't normally hike up this side. And we saw some trails zigzagging their way up the mountain just back there, around on the south side. So maybe that's a more common route. It's a spectacular view from up here across a large swath of Japan. One thing that struck me when I visited was just how mountainous the country is. Once you get out of the lowlands, and that makes sense. It is a nation forged by volcanism, so one would expect many mountain ranges and volcanoes. And that is, of course, indeed the case. Mount Fuji is the highest mountain in Japan, and one of 3 so-called holy mountains in Japan, along with Mount Tate, I believe it's called, and Mount Haku, both of which are to the northwest of us here. And I did actually get pretty close to Mount Haku-san. When I visited, we were there for a wedding, and the wedding took place at a beautiful Shinto shrine in the foothills of Mount Haku. It was a spectacular location, beautiful forested region, but I did not ascend Mount Haku. It looks like there's lots and lots of trails up this flank. This is, I guess, the eastern side, northeastern side. Look at the crisscross. It's a very tiny looking trail, in fact. Mount Fuji is capped with snow for, I think, about half the year, if not more. That is a often depicted image. You know, the snow-capped conical form of Mount Fuji has been the subject of countless pieces of art over centuries, and it's a pilgrimage site as well. My understanding is there is a Shinto shrine up here on the summit of Mount Fuji. So finally we are coming up to the top here. You can see we're at about 13,000 feet. And we really don't want to go much higher than this, because I believe this plane's only rated for about 14,000 feet. So, yeah, we should probably just, we'll swing around again and come on back past the caldera here on top. God, this game is beautiful. Honestly, it looks like a photograph sometimes. Of course, all the textures and topography and all that is all based off of satellite imagery and digital elevation models, so it is quite true to life. But the artistry comes in with how the developers have just done an incredible job with the atmospherics and weather and lighting. It's really stunning. There's such a spectacular view from up here. Wow. Have any of you ever visited Mount Fuji or even summited Mount Fuji? I would be interested to hear. So, if so, I'm just gonna do that there. Give us a moment to just relax up here with the active pause. It lets us admire the scenery without having to keep circling. It looks like there's a little assortment of structures on the southeastern edge of the crater here, and I don't know if that's where the shrine is or if they are amenities for hikers. Now there's another collection of structures here as well on the north side, or if they're maybe research related. I'm honestly not sure. It's also possible that the real structures, the actual summit, doesn't have this many buildings on it. The Microsoft Flight Simulator uses satellite imagery as the basis for guessing where there might be buildings, trying to place buildings that look appropriate there in the right spots, but it doesn't always get it right. Sometimes it puts buildings where there are none. Sometimes it does not put buildings where there should be. But anyway, I suppose you could go on Google Maps to get the truth of it. The wind is just whistling up here. I bet you it would be bitterly cold. I don't know how good this little NXCub is at maintaining internal temperature that's comfortable, but given that we are near its operational limit, you wouldn't want to stay up here for too long, probably. This is perhaps the happiest looking plane I've flown yet. It is so cheerful looking. Just smiling away. So, oh, look at that. There's another plane flying by over there. A couple of them actually up in the sky. Probably going to land at Narita Airport, which is the major airport for Tokyo. That's my guess. That's where it's headed. Anyway, let's undo our pause here. Keep flying. Do another more swing past. And then I think we will strike out for Kyoto. Now, I must say we are not going to fly all the way there because it's actually a fairly long ways away from here, and it would take us way too long. Be a long and pretty boring video. I mean, I know it's ASMR, I know you're here to sleep and relax, but I think it would be unreasonably long. And so instead, we'll head off that direction, but then I'll just fast forward. Let's do a little jump cut. Suddenly, we'll be flying over Kyoto. Look at the zigzag trails. So neat and tidy. So what direction are we facing there? Looks like, okay, so right now we're facing northwest, so those trails are facing northeast by the look of it. I know I keep popping back out to this external view, but it's pretty stunning out here. The cabin view is kind of nice because it has a cozy feel to it, but if you really want to take in the scenery, it's pretty hard to beat the external view. So, once more over the crater here, and then we will make our way make our way west towards Kyoto. Look at that mountain falling away below us. Love the shadows and dynamic lighting on our plane. Pretty cool. The moon in the sky is quite picturesque, isn't it? Looks like a hazy morning over Japan, or at least this part of the country. This game uses real weather data, and at the time of my recording this, it would be what time in Japan? I'm trying to do the translation in my head. I actually forget. I think it would be evening right now. Yeah, I think it would be late evening, maybe, Japan. So I did set the time to be this past morning in Japan, but I believe it is using real weather data from this past morning. Pretty sure that's how it works. Absolutely stunning, isn't it? One might say the most iconic mountain in the world. It's certainly up there. It's a contender. I can't think of a more iconic mountain off the top of my head. You know, Everest, I guess. But if you were to see a picture of Everest, I'm willing to bet most people would not recognize it. Whereas if you show someone a picture of Mount Fuji, they almost certainly would. guess Mount Kilimanjaro is another very visually iconic mountain. I'm sure there are others. The Matterhorn. The Matterhorn might be slightly more, not like it's a competition or anything, just musing, speculating. Anyhow, well, I suppose we'd better fast forward our way over to Kyoto, which, as I mentioned, is west quite a ways and a little bit south. Southwest, southwest, I guess. But yeah, I think with this little plane at the speed we're going, it will be a pretty long flight. When I traveled from Kyoto back to Tokyo, I took a bullet train, Shinkansen. Those things go very fast. I want to say about 300 kilometers an hour. And it still took about 4.5 hours. Is that how long it was? Maybe not quite, maybe 3.5. I don't remember exactly. But so it's a long way. But for you, it will take just a moment for us to pop on over there. Let's head over to Kyoto. Welcome back. You took a little nap on that flight there, maybe. It's all good. We had a nice little nap while we flew. So we are approaching Kyoto from the east. So we're flying just about due west, and we're a little ways away still, but I thought it would be nice to start a little ways off and approach over this ridge. Plane keeps wanting to nose up, so I'm going to adjust the trim slightly. Is that going to do it? Again, I'm not a plane guy. Yeah, that's going to bring us down a little bit. Probably overdid it. Well, maybe not. Okay. Well, we're slowly gaining altitude, but we will level off by the looks of it. Let's pop to the external view. So, you can see Kyoto in the distance, just over these ridges here, and the greater Kyoto area sprawling out to the east here and to the south. Eventually that grades into a larger metropolitan area, which includes Osaka. This lake that we are flying over is very picturesque. I wish I remembered what it was called, but I don't. But I do remember taking the train from the north, from Kanazawa, south, along, well, partially along this lake, at least for part of that train ride. We had nice views out across the lake. But yeah, sadly I don't remember the name. It's a big lake though. So, Kyoto is a spectacular city. It is very different from Tokyo. Tokyo is a massive metropolis, obviously. Tens of millions of people. I think we're getting close to 40 million in that greater Tokyo area, which is unbelievable. And It has many different neighborhoods, many skyscrapers, of course. The urban life there is unbelievable. There's just so much to see. You could spend a lifetime there and never get your fill, I'm sure. Kyoto is much smaller by comparison. Still a sizable city at about 1.5 million people in Kyoto proper. But it is certainly not nearly as urbanized as Tokyo. Doesn't really have much in the way of skyscrapers, or doesn't have any. So it's a much shorter city, and much of its historical character remains. It was spared from damage for the most part during World War II, and so many of the cultural landmarks exist to this day. And so we're kind of coming in on the northeast side here, and I'm going to swing around to the south in a moment, because a couple of the places I want to see or show you are tucked right up against this wooded ridge here. A couple of temples, well, a temple and a shrine. This kind of green-looking rectangle in the middle of the city here, this is the Imperial Palace, and Kyoto was the imperial capital of Japan for over 1,000 years, from the 700s CE through the mid-1800s. And so for that reason, some call it the 1,000-year capital. So let's, well, I'm not sure why it's beeping at us, but it's like, yo, you're not flying right. It's okay. We're gonna come in here. I'm gonna try and get a little closer. I think it doesn't like us dropping altitude so quickly. No, that's not a relaxing sound. But you know what? If we leave the cockpit, we can't hear the warning sounds. So, hey, I guess that's what we want to do. So I'm keeping an eye out along here for a very particular temple complex. And, oh, I think we just passed it back there, actually. So, you know what, let's bank around. Yeah, because I think I spied it there. It's actually kind of tricky to spot these landmarks from the sky, because things look pretty different from up here. And, so I have to do my best to figure it out based on what I remember from looking at maps of the area and from just my memory of the layout of the city. I was only there for about 4 days, so enough time to get a general sense, but not to become really familiar, of course. So, this first landmark is one of the more famous and the more visited landmarks in Kyoto, and it is a Buddhist temple called Kiyomizu-dera. Kiyomizu-dera. That stands, or that translates, as I understand it, as Pure Water Temple. Pure Water Temple. And it's just off our left wingtip right now. Let's do the old active pause so you can get a better look at it. It's this complex right down here. And let's see, can I use the pointer? I can. So you approach up this street here, which is lined with all sorts of shops, restaurants, or up this way, either way, one of these. In fact, we came up this way. And then the site itself has a number of buildings, several beautiful towers, and this large structure right here. This is this spectacular main structure. It's built on these huge supports, big wooden beams, and situated right next to a waterfall. And I suspect the name Kiyomizu-dera comes from the fact that it's pretty wet in this part of the city. I think up against these hills here, you get a lot of rain. It's very lush. And the pure waters flowing from the hills, down this waterfall past the temple, I think are the temple's namesake. It was founded, I believe, in the 700s CE, and most of the currently existing buildings were constructed some centuries later in the 1500s, I believe. And they were built in the traditional style of Japanese carpentry, which is without a single nail, all done with very careful joinery, and fitted together in such a way that it is still standing to this day, which is just remarkable. You don't get such a great sense of what it looks like from the air here, but it is a beautiful building and profoundly peaceful is what I noticed when we were there. It was pouring with rain. The temple was living up to its name. It was in fact pure water for us. We were just soaked. We got wet walking up to the temple because we came from quite a ways further down in the city. Took a bus and then walked. And then it was pouring rain the whole time we were there, but it felt right. But that main structure itself under this big shingled roof here, it was so peaceful. It was dark and quiet inside, and smelled of incense and ancient wood, and you had to take your shoes off to walk inside. And there were altars set up, and of course it was just pouring down rain outside, and there was no artificial light inside. It was all just what light filtered in, and there were candles and sensors in these huge vaulted rooms with these massive wooden beams. And it was profoundly peaceful. Except for all the other tourists, I guess. But even then, it was busy, but it wasn't too crazy. But I felt a serenity there that I don't often feel. And so for that reason, it was a place I really enjoyed. A pretty special site. And if you ever get the chance to visit Kyoto, I strongly recommend visiting Kiyomizu-dera. It's a very, very beautiful spot with a lovely view out across the city, as you can well imagine if you're standing there on the big balcony. There's a huge balcony off of the south side of the building, and you were to look west, you get this gorgeous view right across the city. Well, that's a lot of time at Kiyomizu-dera, so we better get moving. And let's see if I can find the other site that I had in mind. This one might be a little trickier because I don't think it's as sort of characteristic from the air. But it's got to be right around here somewhere. Somewhere. Okay, that might be it. Maybe? Well, let's active pause and see. Oh, no, you know where I think it is? I think it's just up ahead. Let's go a little bit further. Yeah, this looks like it here, I think. Go a little bit past so that you can see a little better. There we go. So I think this complex right below us here is what we're looking for. Yeah. So this is the Fushimi Inari Taisha shrine, and it is a Shinto shrine to the kami Inari. The kami are deities or spirits in Shinto, and Inari is the kami of agriculture and rice and foxes, kitsune. And so this shrine complex here, which is basically directly below us right now, has all kinds of kitsune statues all over it, but is perhaps more famous for something that we can't really see, unfortunately, from the sky here. But it is the torii gates. You've probably seen photographs of these hundreds of brilliant red and black torii gates that are all very close together up these winding paths up this hillside, and they make these almost like tunnels along these paths, and these paths wind their way up the hillside to the top of this mountain here, which is also called Inari, and they are this very, very beautiful, very characteristic walkways. And we walked partway up the mountain, but I think it's an hour or two to get up to the top. We didn't go the full way. It was the same day that we visited Kiyomizu-dera back there, and it was also pouring here at Fushimi Inari Taisha Shrine. And so we decided not to go the whole way to the top. If we had, I suspect we would have enjoyed another stellar view out across the city. But we decided we had best avoid drowning ourselves completely, and we had other things to do that day. In fact, we went to this shrine first that day, and then we went over to Kiyomizu-dera, so we wanted to make sure we had ample time at each of them. But we did pick up some little trinkets and such. At the shrine, we got a little torii gate ornament, which you can, if you like, write on them and then hang them from these racks, which is supposed to be a way of sort of asking for a blessing. If you leave one of these little ornamental pieces as an offering, I guess. And we actually, of course, you know, I cannot write in Japanese, but another person there very kindly helped us to write our messages that we wanted on this Torii Gate ornament. However, we didn't actually end up leaving it there. We hung it, we took some photos, and then we took it with us as a little souvenir, and we hung it on our Christmas tree this past Christmas. We also picked up a bunch of little fox trinkets, little kitsune, in various kinds, all kinds of things you can get if you want. They were pretty cute, and one of which also went on our Christmas tree, and some we brought back as souvenirs for family and friends. So, let's carry on, shall we? And let's now circle around and head west across the city. Across the city. There's many fascinating sights to see in the city, of course. There's an incredible market with probably hundreds of stalls, vendors of all kinds. It's all sort of open air. We had some really tasty stuff there, including some amazing bread. They call it Castella bread, I think. Is that right? Castella bread? But it was more like a cake. It was very cakey. It was like a strawberry bread cake thing. It was so good. Looked to see if I could find something like it around here where I live, but it seems like no one makes it. And I tried a little baby octopus on a stick, which felt a little bit like monstrous of me, but apparently it's a local delicacy. It's a baby octopus on a stick, and its head has been stuffed with a quail's egg. So I dutifully tried the local snack. It was alright. Got some delicious other treats, some macarons and some things like that. All kinds of amazing stuff. Sorry if I'm making you hungry. Obviously there's a lot more to the city as well, but the food is an important part of it. There is, way back there, we've passed it now, but way on the other side, there's the Gion district, which is famously known as the geisha district. No, we did not get to see a geisha or have a seating tea session with a geisha or anything, but one day I hope I get the opportunity. Where we are flying now is to a part of the city in the far western side. Why do I keep saying the far western side of the city, called Arashiyama. Arashiyama. You can see this beautiful river flows out here. Not actually sure what the river is called, but this area of the city is known for a bamboo forest, a famous bamboo forest, and that is right this area right here, just in front of us. We will pause once again, but beautiful old bamboo forest with these towering bamboo stalks. It's incredibly dense and just gorgeous as the green light filters down through the bamboo. And again, just a very calming place. Something about I don't know, the smoothness of the bamboo and the softness of the light. Just very, very peaceful. There's some temples and shrines to be visited in this area as well. It's another sort of touristic area. And this main drag right along here is another one that's lined with lots of shops, restaurants, to of course entice the visitors. And the bamboo forest is all up in here. And then down by the river here, there's this bridge that you can walk across. There's a little riverside park here that we sat in and enjoyed watching the birds. There was numerous different kinds of birds out here in the river. There's these sort of, they're not dams, but they're, what do you call it, terrace in the water. I don't know what you call it, but there's these little, tiny little waterfalls here. And there were, I think, cranes, maybe, standing out there. Look, they were looking for a morsel. But a very picturesque little spot. And then just up here, you can make out this building, small building up here on this little hillside. And this is the Arashiyama Monkey Park, they call it. And it's a place you can go to visit Japanese macaques, which are Japan's native monkey, I guess. And you start from right down here, and you hike up through the forest. It's actually a very beautiful hike through some lovely forest until you make your way up to this area. That little structure there is actually just a little hut, basically, where they have the walls made of mesh fencing. And you might think that the macaques are contained within inside, but that is not the case. What happens is the people go inside. You go inside. The macaques have free reign of this whole forest and hillside. And so they're just out there doing their thing, hanging out, in the trees and on the grass. And then you can go inside that little hut and you can observe them up close, because they'll climb all over the fences there, all the sides of the building. You can pay a tiny little bit and get a little bit of food, peanuts or apple, to feed them if you like. And it was a fun experience. I had never seen macaques before. They seemed quite happy. Some of them were fighting a little bit, I guess, but they seemed to just be pretty chill, just kind of living their life, doing their thing. And there were a bunch of different ones, including some babies, some very cute little baby macaques, very small, just clinging to their mothers. And it was a fun little experience. Like I said, a very pretty hike to get up there. It was fun to see the macaques, and once again, a spectacular view from up there across the city, this time from the west, looking north and east. So that was a neat little thing to do at the monkey park. Let's carry on to one more site here. I'm not quite sure how long this video is getting, but whatever. Having a good time. Hopefully you are too. Or maybe you're asleep by now. That's fine too. So, the last place that I would like to show you is another Buddhist temple, a Zen Buddhist temple. It's very famous for being a golden temple. It's called Kinkaku-ji. Kinkaku-ji. It's another one of the more popular tourist sites in Kyoto. It's out here on the western side of the city. Just off our left wingtip here, it's a little valley. We actually spent one night outside the city, up this little valley, a little ryokan, a traditional Japanese inn with the tatami mats. You sleep on the floor, the paper walls and all that. And it was really neat, actually. It was a charming little place, family-run kind of place. Not super fancy or anything, but it was really neat to spend the night there. And we went to their restaurant there, which was totally empty except for us. But the chef there made some fabulous sushi. Some really, really good sushi. And it was just a really neat experience. It was also pouring rain while we were, we stayed over there, so, and we didn't see any other guests while we were there either, but it was very, again, cozy in a way. We had our little room with the tatami mats and whatever they make those out of, and the floors there, it has a very unique scent to it. I think it's made of reeds or something like that. And so, it has this kind of unique woody smell. And then it was just pouring rain outside. It was very, very cozy. So our last site here is just ahead of us. Use the cursor and show you. This is Kinkaku-ji. As I said, it is a Zen Buddhist temple. And this structure right here, perched on the edge of this very picturesque little pond, is known as the Golden Temple, because the entire thing is clad in gold leaf. And it is spectacularly beautiful and just so picturesque on the side of this pond, especially when the irises are blooming like they were when we were there. Like the contrast of the gold temple and the brilliant purple irises was spectacular. And it is another extremely popular tourist spot. Now, the structure itself, the Golden Temple, was actually rebuilt in the 1950s because it was burned by an arsonist, a young monk who resided there. That's my understanding. He was mentally disturbed and he decided to burn it down. And the original structure was essentially damaged beyond repair, as I understand it, and so they rebuilt it on the same site and to the same plan, but the structure you see there today is only about 70 years old. Nevertheless, it is very spectacular, especially because, as I said, the whole thing is covered in gold leaf, and the location it occupies is just really, really beautiful. There's some lovely gardens throughout there. You can meander through along the edge of the pond, past the temple, through the gardens here, and then out into sort of the larger complex. But a lovely sight, and another one well worth seeing if you ever visit Kyoto. There's more that we could talk about here, so much more to see. There's the Imperial Palace grounds and the botanical garden there. There's the Nijo Castle. Well, that was weird. Suddenly, weird flicker. Nijo Castle, which is this other kind of green square in the city here, and much, much more. But I think I better call it a video for now, because this is probably getting pretty long, and well, you know, I should probably get to bed. So we will leave it here. But friends, thank you so much for joining me on this flight over Japan here today. I do hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it interesting. Of course, above all, I hope you found it relaxing. And I'd like to once more extend a very special thank you to this channel's supporters, whom you will see their names listed in just a moment at the end of the video, and you will hear the names of our Fusro tier supporters read out, as happens at the end of every one of my videos. But if you are interested in supporting what I do here, the kind of content that I create, and having a say in the kind of videos that I make as well, please take a look at the links down below for my YouTube memberships or my Patreon. You get the same perks both places, and at the Fusro and Fusro tiers, you do indeed get access to the monthly poll, the members' choice or patrons' pick poll, to select the supporters' choice video for each month. So a big thank you to our amazing channel supporters. A big thank you to you once again for watching. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of this, if you've been to any of these places, or where you would like me to fly in another Microsoft Flight Simulator video in the future. In the meantime, I look very forward to having you back here next time. Farewell for now, my friends. And here we are. I told you are going to see the illustrious names of all our amazing channel supporters in just a moment. And here they are arrayed in front of you. I won't do the whole song and dance about what the special thanks are for, because you already know. I just told you. But what I will, of course, do is give a very special spoken thank you to this channel's incredible Fusro tier supporters. Starting with Drummer Brit, Odin's Son, Rango Steel, K Time, Jake Luffney, Smitty, Ragnar Ragnarsson, and our latest channel supporter. Please join me in a big welcome for Bruce Buchner. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing his name right there. Hopefully, Bruce. If I'm not, let me know in the comments. I think I've asked you this on streams before, so hopefully I got it right. So many amazing folks here. People who come watch the videos, people who come hang out at the streams. Many of these folks have been around in this community for a very long time, and I appreciate their support so very, very much. So once again, a big thank you to all of this channel's incredible supporters.